So in comprehensions means we work on the base data structures, which are like list, tuple, set, and dictionary, and we create comprehensions. And what are these comprehensions? How we can work? Let's see. So first of all, comprehension means what? Means in a true English meaning is making the things precise. That is comprehension means. So alternatively, doing in a one way. So till now also we have worked on the these data structures. Then what these comprehensions can help us to be precise. If you can look through it means the same list, same dictionary, same tuple, so same set we will use. But we write the things in a slightly different way. Say traditional if I go for one list and from that list I want to get the values, means I create a new list and I want to iterate on something else and get the values. So what I do for I in some range of 2 to 9, if I give, I get the values. If I print the values, I get all the values. But rather than printing, if I want to append to the new list, so I am just like, dot append of this one. And finally, if I ask print of, hey, what is this new list? You can see, instead of printing, all the values will come there, right? So this is what we understood. If the same thing can be done in a comprehension, so this comprehension, the first common comprehension is list comprehension. Why it call it as a list comprehension means we use list data structure for the comprehension. The logic is very simple. Comprehension is rewriting the for loop in a single line. So, so what are the for loop you have? You write it. And within that list, what you are appending? Just I. You write that I before it. And the entire thing you want to store in a list. Then it becomes a list comprehension. Did you see? The same logic. So instead of now, I can, instead of directly asking, I can assign to one variable and I ask the values. Again, the same thing happens. Means ordinary for loop, till now, what are you doing? We are rewriting in a single line. That is the concept of comprehension. But in the first case, we just appended the value without any condition, nothing. So that's why here also in the same fashion. Now let's take one more use case. So comprehension with a condition. Generally, you take the same problem itself, but like this time, instead of adding all the values, you want to get only the even values. Now, what is the process? So, if I percentile 2 is equal to 0, then you want to print the values. Traditionally, if you print it, you can see the result there itself, but we cannot use that for subsequently, right? That's the reason we need to store the results in another list. So that's the reason. So in traditional also, we will store in a even list is equal to like this. Instead of printing them, we append to this such that we can use that afterwards. So now if I ask to hey, print the even list, did you see I got the even list values? Fine. If I want to create so another such even list, so I do like the same thing. I want to show the result in a comprehension list comprehension. So and what are the for loop is there? Write that for loop as it is. Write that for loop as it is. And after that for loop, we have a condition, if condition. Write that condition also as it is. And within that condition, what you are appending, you want to take the I. So whichever you want to add, that you write in the starting. Means for loop should be like this. After for loop, if there is an if condition, you should be like this. But the value should be like this. This is a structure in which you need to work if you want to work on this comprehensions. If I ask, did you see I got exactly the same answers? So now let me make something more better. So one more edge case if I bring, say the same comprehension, so with a condition, But instead of adding a single values, I want to add the square of the values, assume. So means like I want to take the even square. So if I take the example, so means like the same for loop example, and if I percentile 2 is equal to 0, so if I do like a print of I into I, this is what I square means. And instead of printing them, if I want to store somewhere in a list, so what is that? I need to create a even squares list, and I need to append that to that even squares. So finally, after all my work, if I ask, what are the even squares? You can see the list of even squares. Fine. And in the same fashion, if you want to rewrite it in a single line, I told the logic again the same thing. Whenever you want to rewrite, so first write that for loop. After that for loop, what are the condition is there? Write that in the right side. The condition should be in the right side. And whatever you want to append, it's not an individual value, but you want to take the squares. So whatever you want to add, the base logic, that write in the left. And ultimately you want to create a comprehension, which is a list comprehension. That's why store in a braces. So now like event square, maybe like event square 2 I will create is equal to. If I print this one, you can observe the same answer in both the cases. So that's the difference. And similarly, if I go further, so okay, sir, if I go for one more edge case, I want to take maybe a logic which is something different, means with an if and else condition. So in the same example, for each of the number, I want to take and tell whether it is even or odd. So means typically I loop over the same for loop, and I do make if condition I percentile 2 is equal to 0. So initially I want to print, if it is even, I want to print even. So else I want to print odd. So this is the logic now. So in the same fashion, if you want to store even or odd, that results. Instead of printing, I want to create a list and I want to store. So what I will do, dot append of this one, dot append of this one. So finally, after your work, if you ask, so for each of the positions, zeroth value, first value, second value, like that, wherever the value is like positive or negative will come. Now for this, how do you implement? So can I implement the same logic here? So, okay, I give a try for loop and I have an if condition. So if condition we can implement if only if is there. But in this case, if is also there, else is also there. So we cannot implement a else condition. So else something, so else, so that is the problem with the this one. If I do like a condition even or odd, I cannot implement it. So else is not supported. So this is a problem. So comprehensions, comprehensions doesn't support else case. Also, if you have like multiple elif cases and others, in those cases things will not work. Then what is the solution, sir? So to address that, we need to understand something called as a ternary operation. Ternary operation. What is ternary operation? Every language has this concept of ternary operation. Sometimes there will be situations where there will be one condition and two results. So certain conditions may result in more than one. Let's say if you flip a coin, a damn sure anytime you will get only two results, right? Either head or tail. So like, but there are some chances. So so it can result in more than two options. So in that case, ternary operation is not suitable. Whenever you have a condition and two values, in that case it is suitable. So how it will work is like, so you write any condition. say like if true. So means like say till now we have the logic. So like if 12 greater than 3. So I do like greater, else, lesser. You see now, I did one condition. Based upon that, it is doing. So in the same fashion, so you can write anything. So if true, I'm writing correct, else, so wrong. You see, if true means every time it will be true, right? So or like similarly, if I go for this case, okay, if a number, let's take if say 2 percentile 2 is equal to 0. So means if it is true, then we can say it as like a even, else, odd. Hope you are understanding what I'm doing. I'm writing one condition. Based upon that condition, I'm telling it. Or like you write anything. So if I say like if not, so means like I want to make it as odd and here as even. You see. So I wrote my logic correspondingly. So any condition whatsoever you have, you need to write like that and it will work. So not only that, I can give like few other examples, just like to list you. So if condition, if not condition, so like that if I give. So there should be a condition, the default value if this condition is correct. If not, what is the else condition? So like that we need to give all. So why I'm telling this one? Because we cannot implement a else condition directly in comprehension, which can be done indirectly. So to understand that, let me go ahead with this. So here our problem is that we want to get which is true and which is false, right? But directly we couldn't do. So else we cannot implement that we understood. Now we have one condition. So first let's take this condition. In the very first thing, I want to print this I. Instead of if I don't assign to a variable also, you can understand, right? How this is things are working. So fine. Now for this particular logic, if I want to do like a I percentile 2. I percentile 2 means it will be 0 or 1 like that. So whenever it is 0 or not, I'm asking. So whenever it is 0 only, it is true, right? So in that case only you want to do. Means I write like a condition. Now based upon this condition, if I write like even, and here is like odd. Observe carefully. What are the logic I want to do? Ultimately, I wrote in one line. So means like else odd. So instead of this one condition, so means the entire logic I wrote here. It's like one single ternary operation. So you get it. So whatsoever you have done in a typical try exception, sorry, if else conditions with like this, so we can do like this. So as comprehension doesn't support the else condition, whenever you want to implement, this is a strategy to implement. So don't you understand how things are working now? Now going further, what is this comprehension? How it is helping us? See, we have understood the concept of comprehension is same across, but how the braces you are using, what braces we are using for storage, make it like that's current. If I take like now one example, so let me take like one more example. Say this time I'm looping on a for loop and I'm getting one value at a time. It's a very simple example, but you see the same variable every time is there. But did you see the braces? First time I used square braces. Next time I used parentheses like a tuple. So next time I'm using set braces, which is flower braces. And for dictionary we use a colon, right, with the same thing. So structure is like a dictionary structure is like a tuple, structure is like a set, like that. Now we see the result. in the first case, whenever you're using like a list comprehension, so it is called as a list because the ultimate result is stored in a list. So entire this process of rewriting a for loop in a single line is called as comprehension. Whereas for a tuple comprehension, did you see it is something creating like a generator? Means for the first time you're seeing. I will tell you about shortly. So means there is nothing like a tuple comprehension. We should call it as a generator expression. It is kind of like an optimized object again. There are many optimized objects like range and others. I will tell you. So and coming to the third one, which is a set. Because the entire results you stored in a set, so braces, floor braces, it's called as a set. And this is a dictionary. Means comprehension rules are same. So ultimately, what data type you want to result depend upon how you want to store. Hope it's clear. Okay, sir. Similarly, let's say I have a further big logic. Way like for I in range of maybe like for I in maybe let me take Python. Means like character 1 is in Python. It's easy for you to understand. For character 2 in say programming. Okay, I have two things. Or like so for number, maybe like I will write a number in like 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I want both the things together, like ch1 comma number. So each time what I'm doing this time, I am printing like a tuple, right? I'm getting. So maybe these pairs you want to store. So you create a list again. If you create a tuple, we cannot store, right? So you create a list and you want to store. Dot append. So finally, if I ask, hey, print of pairs. Now in this case, you see, you got a list of pairs, right? If the same thing need to be implemented, so again like this. So then how to implement? Like this. In a comprehension means, so the logic is simple. So till now we have gone for a single for loop. What if there are 2 for loops or 3 for loops? Simple. How many for loops you have? So we need to give in that order. So left to right. Okay. And ultimately what you are appending. So you do it here. So if the entire result you want to store in a list, so you store in a list. You get the same answer. Maybe like you can assign to something like a pairs 2 is equal to, and you can print pairs 2. Exact same answer, right? And similarly, so not only this, if you want to do the same thing in a set, so which we have seen, if I need to store the same results in a set, how you do? In a set means you define like not a braces, right? Empty braces means a dictionary. If I take like a set, for set instead of add, we need to do append. Because it's a tuple, it can take it also. And if you see the pairs, you get it. So a set of tuples. If I need to rewrite that in a single line in a set, the same logic. We need to set the set braces and we need to store. So remove the columns and others. So what are the inner if condition is there? So inner for loop, you write it here. And what are the ultimate you want to store? So ultimate rules of that particular data structure should follow. If you store like a set a list here, it will not agree because that's how it works, right? So if I take like pairs 2 is equal to, and if I have print of pairs 2, you can notice it. So whichever, like if you have like multiple tires also, you can work like this. Hope it's fine. So this is how it works. This is the comprehensions of these things. Next, like this, if I go for any other data structure also, we can go. Multiple if conditions, if else conditions. Even for this also, I have like a multiple, and within that, if I have an if condition, if number, say like number is number is a string, right? Okay, here it is a string. If a convert of number is equal to string, or like number is equal to 3 as a string, because it's a string, right? If I say, then I want to add. So I got very few, right? If I need to rewrite that in this one, so what I will do? So pairs 2 is equal to, I write in a single line. So whatever the for loop is there, that I need to write first. And within that, it has another for loop. That also we need to take another for loop. And within that, I have if condition. So that we need to write here. And within that logic, what you want to add, that you need to write in the left. So if you take the things overall, page 2. You see now, the same logic you implemented. So this is what we need to understand about how these conditions work, how we need to add the values and others. Hope it's fine. So with this, we understood about the comprehensions. Next, if I further go, there is another thing on the iterables. So iterable operations, what are the iterables and what operations we can do? So iterable opt.ipynb. What is this iterable operations? What we can do? What is an iterable till now? Iterables means what? Any object that support for loop on it. So objects that support for loop on them. So what are the iterable objects? Examples are like from the starting string, and others are like collections. So collections means so list, tuple, set, dict. So and like apart from that, we have range. So next we see like iterators, generator. So next we will see them also shortly. But these are the iterables. So till now we understood the very four basic things. So iterables. So these iterables, what we can work on them. If I generally take some values, say values is one of the list I have, and so one second. Yeah. Yes. If I take one values, which is a list, I am asking it will give the values, right? Now there are some new built-in functions which I didn't tell till now. So till now you know the concept of sort, sorted, and all these things, right? So like that, there is something called as the max. If I take max of these values, you know, so it will give the maximum among them. So what is the maximum value that you will get? Similarly, if I say minimum, I'll get the minimum value. So in terms of value, which is minimum, which is maximum, you understood, right? But for this max and minimum, we can also do additional options also. Means, if you see in this case, values is a list. For a list, we can ask like, hey, count of say 2. If I take 2, how many times 2 is occurring? So 2 times. If I say like a count of 3, so how many times it is occurring? Like that it will give, right? Every number, how many times a particular character is occurring? So it will give. So now this maximum I did traditionally based upon the value. What if I want to do this value max based upon the counts? So how I'm doing the ordinary thing, if I do in a for loop, you will understand. In the same fashion, I want to do a max based upon some other parameter. Then keys is equal to this values dot count if I give. So based upon the count of the values, if I want to get the maximum. For the same values, you can understand now. So in terms of count, whichever is the highest occurring. So it is saying 3. 3 is one which is having the highest count. If I ask, hey, how many times 3 is occurring? It is saying 4 times. So in terms of this, it is occurring like this. Means generally if you do max, it will give the maximum value. But if you give any customizations, it will do like that. In the same lines, I can do a minimum also. Minimum in terms of the value and minimum in terms of count. Or down the line, you will learn about something called as lambda functions or functions also. We can again give a custom logic also. Based upon that logic, also we can get which is the maximum and minimum. So like that we can do. And similarly, so one more thing what we can do is like, say if you want to get the total values. So a total count means like, like a summation if you want to define. So our problem is like to calculate the summation. So total values. So how do you get the total values in these values? If I take values, values is an entire list. How to get the total values? So for number in values, so I want to take to it overall sum for add result. Maybe like, add result is equal to. So initial value you should make in such a way that it will not make any effect. Whenever you're doing additions, make the initial value as 0. Whenever you're doing multiplications, if you do like 0, then it ultimately entire result will be false. So that's why when you do multiplication, make the default value as 1 like that. So finally, every time whatever the value I'm getting, I need to add to the existing value, right? So this is how we need to do. And we get the final result. Say final result is equal to, say we can write add result. Now I got 27. So do I need to do this much hard work to get it? No. There is one more built-in function called as sum. For that, if you pass your list of values, it will give in one shortcut. So don't you think that it's much more easy? So one more thing about this sum built-in function is that we can give some kind of offset also. Initially, you starting the zeroth value, so starting the value as 0. To that value, everything is added. So that's why you got it. What if you want to give some offset? So that is also possible in this sum built-in function. You give an iterable list or a tuple or a set or say anything, it will give. If you give dictionary also, it will iterate only on the keys. You know that. So if I do like this, see here, initially if I give sum, it will say 27 as it is. But if I give an offset of 0 or so and so, that corresponding offset is getting added. So like that also we can do. And not only that, we already seen about sorting. So as we have detailedly discussed, just I am listing. If you want to sort the keys, by default also we can sort. You can see based upon the values you got. See lesser values like 1 came first, next 2, next 3, next 4. But in terms of count dot values dot count, so lesser count whichever got will come first. Higher count you will get next, next like that. And similarly, if you want to know reverse equal to true or reverse equal to false, based upon those values, forward and reverse will happen. And at the same time, I told you one more thing that so if you want to sort in a ascending or descending order, sort is the only function. Whereas there is one more thing called as the list.reverse or reversed built-in function. I told this will not give in a descending order or something. It will just reverse the existing values order. So whatever the order you have, that order will be reversed. That's it. If you see, so your original values are like this. So just the values were flipped. The order of the values are flipped, right? So that is how it works. And also, so similarly, so sir, can I work on you told like any iterables we can work, right? So can I work? Let's say I have a word called as Malayalam. So if I do like a sorted, sort attribute we cannot add because it's not a list. If I do a sorting, I get the values. So similarly, can I do like a max of this word because I got all strings? Yes. So, so for this word also, we are able to do all the works. If I do like sort is equal to, similarly max is equal to, Similarly, we have like a min is equal to, you see now, what is the sorted, what is the minimum, what is the maximum. So like that, you get all the values. Similarly, what if, can I get the counts based upon the counts? Can I ask these values? So let me give it that try also. So we did like a direct values. So let me give that extend that also. So for this max also, I'm saying key is equal to, so whose dot count? Because it's a string, right? So word dot count I'm asking. If I say word dot count, let's see. You see, based upon the word dot count also it is giving word dot count. Similarly, in the same line, for the minimum also we can do word dot count. Means what all operations we can do traditionally. So like this also we can do. We can achieve the same thing. So if I pass that, yeah, you get it. I think somewhere I missed one of the brace. Okay, here. Yeah, this brace is missing. Yeah, you see, it's working. So this is what I want to prove here. So we can work. But so whenever you have like a alpha numerics, that's where the problem comes. Some of the things are like alphabet, some of the things are like numerics. That's where an issue comes. Means if you have a string like this, say like a number, like a string. So like a string, like a number. Sorry, number. So assume that some number, some string, some number like this. Assume that this is your numbers. Say values is equal to like this. Now for this thing, if I ask, hey, so sorted off values. If I ask, it will throw in error. In Python 2, it used to work very perfectly. But in Python 3, it will throw in error. The reason being, it cannot do the operations directly. Then what we need to do, we need to pass like a custom value. So the next you will learn about something called as a lambda. If each value is given, so you need to convert all the values to one data type. Either you convert everything to string or everything to integer or whatever. In this particular context, if I was given a value, so stated that, integer of value, all the values will be converted to integer, then they will be sorted. Means in the result, if it is a string, it will be like that only. But so when they are giving, they will be like that. So in the same fashion, if I need to do the things in a reverse direction, I can do the same thing. If I say reverse equal to true. Now if you see, you got it. So this works. So this is what like this lambda, what is this lambda means? It's a new kind of function. So you will learn next more about it. But this is how we need to work. And similarly, like lambda, there is something called as reversed also. So reversed by default will not give the value. We need to convert to a list to see the values, right? So reversed don't reverse also we can pass a key. It don't need a reverse equal to true because by default its job itself is to reverse the values. Incomplete input. I think one of the braces missing. Reverse takes no keyword arguments. Okay. Yeah, it is taken by default. You don't take anything. Fine. In the same fashion, like max and minimum also, we can do the same thing. So for these values, if I say max, it also doesn't work. So for data also to work further, we need to give this custom input. So till now, like dot counts, dot values, like that we need to go. I think like we need to rejoin again.